This is Paige, the co-host of Giggly Squad. I use Uber Eats for everything, and I feel like people forget that you can truly order anything, especially living in New York City. It's why I love it. You can get Chinese food at any time of night, but it's not just for food. I order from CVS all the time. I'm always ordering from the grocery store. If a friend stops over, I have to order champagne. I also have this thing that whenever I travel, if I'm ever in a hotel room, I never feel like I'm missing something because I'll just Uber Eats it. The amount of times I've had to Uber Eats hair items like hairspray, deodorant, you name it, I've ordered it on Uber Eats. You can get grocery, alcohol, everyday essentials in addition to restaurants and food you love. So in other words, get almost anything with Uber Eats. Order now. For alcohol, you must be legal drinking age. Please enjoy responsibly. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
Welcome to It Takes Energy, presented by Energy Transfer, where we talk all things oil and natural gas. Oil and gas drive our economy, ensure our country's security, and open pathways to brighter futures. When it comes to meeting the world's energy needs, more is better. What we mean is our world needs a wide range of energy sources to meet our increasing needs. Just wind or solar won't get us there, as the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. With our growing population and the increasing use of energy-demanding technologies like AI, reliability is key, and the reliability of natural gas is unmatched by wind and solar. That doesn't mean we all can't work together, but natural gas is vital to ensuring we meet our energy needs. Look around, and you'll see the essential role oil and gas plays in our lives. Our world needs oil and gas, and people rely on us to deliver it. To learn more, visit energytransfer.com.
And welcome again to the Explaining History podcast. We have something extraordinary happening today, and if you're listening, and yesterday was the first time that you've ever listened, I just want to welcome you, and I want to obviously say a massive hi to all the people that have been with the podcast for years and years. There's so many good friends that have written to me, and I've got to know, and it's been my real privilege. But yesterday, we obviously some kind of algorithmic god smiled upon us, and we had about 20 times the normal number of downloads we would get. So wow, we're really the message of the podcast, if there is such a thing, is really kind of going places. So I just wanted to name that, and to thank the people that have listened for years, all the new listeners, and to say that this podcast, if it's about anything, well, it's about kind of two things really. Firstly, it's about honouring the voices of the past. It's about hearing the stories of people throughout the 20th century, some who existed in the most terrible of times, some who didn't, some who lived in extraordinary boom years of the middle century, and about giving their narratives space to be heard. Some of them rarely get. Some of these stories are stories that rarely get heard, and honouring history's victims, honouring the voices of the past, and being aware that they were people just like us, or ordinary, painfully ordinary people, as most people are. And it's also about, I'm never kind of down with this idea of those that forget to learn the lessons of the past are doomed to repeat it, not the George Santanaia kind of thing. Well, I mean, really, is that true? Is that the case? Do we endlessly repeat history? Well, history, I think, probably, as they say, doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. But I think looking at the stories that we do, seeing their contemporary relevance, seeing the fact that the history itself, whether you're talking about the civil rights movement, the conflicts between the Arabs and the Israelis, the partition of India, the Chinese Cultural Revolution, Britain in the 1960s, all of these things resonate. All of these things have contemporary resonance because the past does inform the present through the complicated and muddled way in which we remember things and misremember things, all the way to the way in which societies function. And we can best, as kind of conscious people here in the 21st century, observing the social, political, and economic realities around ourselves, try to kind of arm ourselves for the struggles of the 21st century that will come. Some will be so wildly unpredictable, talking about artificial intelligence, that nobody knows what the map will look like, but others less so. And so what we're trying to do here on the podcast is look in both directions, past and forward. So today I'm looking at a book that I've recommended to lots and lots of people over the last few years. It's an absolutely brilliant piece of scholarship on the Nazi camp system, which obviously includes the death camps and the pre-war concentration camps. It's Nicholas Fashman's book KL. And we're through to the point where the initial kind of wartime radicalization of anti-Semitism, the mass killings on the Eastern Front, the Einsatzgruppe, and the combination of those things, plus the chaos of the war, the setbacks of the war, the fact that the Eastern Front very quickly doesn't start to go quite in the way that Nazis had anticipated. The timetable for the kind of the thing Hitler wanted to do about the Jews gets moved forward. Now, there are kind of various different schools of thought. Sort of the intentionalist school of thought on the Holocaust, which has been largely debunked. Originally posited that Hitler had a kind of clearly thought out plan from very early on to create the thing that actually happens, which is Auschwitz, the industrialized Holocaust of the death camps, Auschwitz and Lincoln and places like that. But we've never seen that document, that thing, and what the picture looks more like is a kind of an endless adaptivity and flexibility. So obviously we get to the mechanized mass murder of Jewish people in the death camps, but there's a kind of a complex and convoluted road involving lots and lots of different factors in the regime's policy decision making until we get to 1942 and the Wannsee Conference and the development of the kind of the mechanisms of mass killing. So here we're looking at chapter 6 of KL, the chapter just titled Holocaust. And it begins with a piece of kind of narrative history about Heinrich Himmler. Okay. Shortly after 3 o'clock on the afternoon of July 17th, 1942, a plane carrying SS leader Heinrich Himmler and his small entourage touched down at Katowice airport. Waiting on the ground were high-ranking party and SS officials, among them the Auschwitz commandant Rudolf Höss, who had busily prepared his camp for Himmler's impending visit. Höss accompanied the SS leader and other dignitaries on the drive south, heading for Auschwitz, where Himmler was formally welcomed over tea and coffee in the officers' mess. The whole camp complex had grown enormously since Himmler's inaugural visit in spring 1941. The SS had greatly extended its local zone of interest. The main camp was also much changed now, including a makeshift section for thousands of female prisoners who were poised for transfer to the huge new compound at Birkenau. So for those that don't know, there are three main Auschwitz sites. Auschwitz is basically 1, 2, and 3. Auschwitz 1 is the old Polish cavalry barracks that was mainly used initially for Polish political prisoners. Auschwitz 2 is Auschwitz Birkenau, which is just now outside the Polish town of Oswiecim. And Auschwitz 2 was accessed until they built a railway line into the camp in 1944 to ship Hungarian Jews into the camp, about 400,000. Prisoners would be marched from the railway station in Oswiecim to Auschwitz Birkenau, which is maybe a kilometre or two. Then there is Auschwitz Monowitz, which was an IG Farben site creating Buna, synthetic rubber, and other chemicals. Primo Levi, the Italian chemist and resistance fighter and Jewish intellectual, he was one of the Jews who was sent to Monowitz because of his background as a chemist, and it was being in the warmth of Monowitz that enabled him to survive the cold winter 1944 to 45. A survivor's guilt that he never kind of really recovered from. Another major development underway was the nearby IG Farben site, as mentioned, where a satellite camp, Monowitz, was being built. Most significant of all, Birkenau had recently become a camp for the systematic mass extermination of European Jewry. During his 2-day visit, see, just to rewind a little bit, so there had been a non-systematized extermination of European Jewry prior to this. The Einsatzgruppen, operating in Poland from 1939 onwards, and the various Reinhard camps had begun to had obviously killed huge numbers of people, and done it in a kind of slightly ad hoc way. And it was the Wannsee Conference that centralizes all of this. To kind of summarize the Wannsee Conference, it's Reinhard Heydrich, who was shortly after assassinated, saying, "You guys all now are currently killing European Jews in large numbers, and the Führer has decreed that the all 12 million European Jews must go, and we must find wherever they are and have them taken to a particular place and murdered very efficiently." They use a euphemistic language. Adolf Eichmann, as the kind of taking the minutes, puts things like resettlement in the East and that kind of thing, but we all know what it means. And so Auschwitz, the Auschwitz Birkenau, as it is in mid-1942, is kind of the product of the Wannsee Conference. During his 2-day visit, Himmler was given a comprehensive tour of the Auschwitz complex. He was keen to check on various economic ventures, both agricultural and industrial. To discuss his ideas about farming, the trained agronomist, Himmler, set time aside for the dynamic local SS director of farms, Joachim Caesar, He also visited agricultural projects, apparently stopping at a cowshed for a glass of milk poured by a prisoner. Himmler also toured the IG Farben building site. Though impressed by modern construction methods, he was impatient for the production of synthetic fuel and rubber to begin. Not for the last time, he pushed the company to speed things up. Inside the main camp, Himmler inspected the overcrowded women's compound and watched as one female prisoner was whipped during corporal punishment. He was standing not far from the camp's crematorium, where the gassing of Soviet prisoners of war had taken place back in autumn 1941. By the time of the visit, however, the centre of mass murder in Auschwitz had already shifted away from the main camp to the new extension in Birkenau. There is a gas chamber in Auschwitz I. It's relatively small, though, and it wasn't the size of the chambers at Auschwitz Birkenau. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Well beyond the first nearly complete Birkenau prisoner sectors stood a couple of innocuous-looking farmhouses, a few hundred yards apart and hidden amongst the trees, that had lately been converted into gas chambers. Here, according to Rudolf Höss, Himmler closely observed the mass murder of a newly arrived transport of Jews. He did not say anything at all about the extermination process, he just watched in silence. The SS leader was a dispassionate observer, just as he had been during the massacre of Jewish men and women near Minsk 1 year earlier. But Himmler was not silent for long. On the evening of July 17th, 1942, he attended a festive dinner with the leading Auschwitz SS officers, all in full uniform, and made small talk about their jobs and families. Later he relaxed during an informal get-together with Rudolf Höss and his wife, and a few select others, in the modern mansion of the Nazi Gauleiter in a forest near Katowice, complete with golf course and swimming pool. Himmler was uncharacteristically light-hearted that evening, even exuberant, though he avoided any direct references to the events of a few hours earlier. Still, the murder of European Jewry must have been on his mind, and he even allowed himself a few glasses of red wine and a smoke. I had never known him like that, recalled Rudolf Höss. The following morning, back in Auschwitz, Himmler made a point of calling on Höss before his final departure. Visiting the commandant's villa, Himmler was at his most affable and posed for the cameras with Höss's children, who called him Uncle Heine. Höss later proudly displayed the pictures in his home. Perhaps he felt that such displays of civility were especially important in a place like Auschwitz, where his men were engaged in daily assault, plunder, and mass murder.
G'day, America. It's Tony and Ryan from the Tony and Ryan podcast from Down Under.
Today we want to talk to you about Boost Mobile, the newest 5G network in the country.
These guys are no longer the prepaid wireless company you might remember. They've invested billions into building their own 5G towers across America, transforming the carrier into America's fourth major network alongside the other big dogs.
Yep, they're challenging the competitors by working harder and smarter, like this amazing new network they've literally built.
The Boost Mobile network, together with their roaming partners, covers 99% of the US population, but 5G speed's not available in all areas.
Yep, they have blazing fast internet and plans for all the latest devices. Visit your nearest Boost Mobile store or find them online at boostmobile.com.
This is Paige, the co-host of Giggly Squad. I use Uber Eats for everything, and I feel like people forget that you can truly order anything, especially living in New York City. It's why I love it. You can get Chinese food at any time of night, but it's not just for food. I order from CVS all the time. I'm always ordering from the grocery store. If a friend stops over, I have to order champagne. I also have this thing that whenever I travel, if I'm ever in a hotel room, I never feel like I'm missing something because I'll just Uber Eats it. The amount of times I've had to Uber Eats hair items like hairspray, deodorant, you name it, I've ordered it on Uber Eats. You can get grocery, alcohol, everyday essentials in addition to restaurants and food you love. So in other words, get almost anything with Uber Eats. Order now. For alcohol, you must be legal drinking age. Please enjoy responsibly. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
Welcome to It Takes Energy, presented by Energy Transfer, where we talk all things oil and natural gas. Oil and gas drive our economy, ensure our country's security, and open pathways to brighter futures. When it comes to meeting the world's energy needs, more is better. What we mean is our world needs a wide range of energy sources to meet our increasing needs. Just wind or solar won't get us there, as the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. With our growing population and the increasing use of energy-demanding technologies like AI, reliability is key, and the reliability of natural gas is unmatched by wind and solar. That doesn't mean we all can't work together, but natural gas is vital to ensuring we meet our energy needs. Look around, and you'll see the essential role oil and gas plays in our lives. Our world needs oil and gas, and people rely on us to deliver it. To learn more, visit energytransfer.com.
The visit of the Reichsführer SS to Auschwitz coincided with major developments in the Third Reich. Since the spring 1942, Himmler had been pushing for forced labour in the KL, the camp network, to redouble, reflecting the new Nazi priorities. Following the failure of the rapid offensive against the Soviet Union and the United States' entry into the war, the regime faced a lengthy battle and had to urgently boost war production. Timothy Snyder, in his book Bloodlands, says basically the same thing. He said that the kind of when fantasy kind of connects with reality in Russia, then suddenly there is a kind of a rapid rethink, as all of the kind of the illusions that people like Himmler had, and Hitler, of course, there is a rapid rethink of priorities, and all of a sudden, not only is there this genocidal instinct at the heart of Nazism to eradicate Europe's Jews and other kind of Untermensch that were Slavs and Gypsies and other kind of racial enemies of the regime, but also Himmler recognizes mass slave labor is needed because you now have the productive power of the United States, the entirety of the British Empire, and the Soviet Union against you, and you need to free up as many men to fight. So the answer is slave labor. So the kind of the reason why there are some people selected to temporarily survive at the sorting point at Auschwitz Birkenau is because you need to extract as much labor as you can from them before they die, and so this reflects this kind of wartime reality. For his part, Himmler had decided in early March 1942 that the entire KL system, previously only loosely integrated into the wider SS organizational chart, would become part of the SS Business and Administration main office, with the camp inspectorate forming Office Group D. The SS Business and Administration Main Unit, or the WVHA as it became to be known, was the newly created organizational and economic hub of the SS, led by a single-minded Oswald Pohl, who had now reached the top echelon of the SS. But when Heinrich Himmler travelled to Auschwitz in July 1942, it was the Nazi final solution, not the SS economy, that was foremost in his mind. Himmler, the master of the KL, also oversaw the annihilation of European Jewry, which escalated in summer 1942. Just before his trip to Auschwitz, he had met with Hitler and afterwards pushed to speed up the genocide. And immediately following his inspection of Auschwitz, Himmler flew to Lublin to plot the extermination of Polish Jews in 3 new camps in the general government, Belzec, Sobibor and Treblinka. He visited Sobibor on the 19th, and later that evening issued an order from Lublin for the rapid resettlement of the entire Jewish population in the general government, except for selected forced labourers in the few remaining ghettos and camps. all local Jews had to be exterminated by the end of the year. The general government, by the way, for those that don't know, the dismemberment of Poland involved East Prussia and the Warthegau being annexed into Germany, the eastern portion of Poland obviously being seized by the USSR, and the bit in the middle, the general government is the kind of the Germany's racial dumping ground, where all the people that they couldn't racially purge, they could racially purge from the bits that are kind of Germanified, are left. And it's Krakow, for example, it was the kind of key administrative heart of the general government. In there is where the Holocaust principally happens. The Nazis are canny enough not to do it on what they consider to be their own soil, and so it's a place of utter lawlessness where there are no rights for anybody, and it's a place also where that is treated. It's the only place that's administered directly as a kind of a colony, a settler colony. Eventually, the plan was to kind of fully Germanify it and racially purge it, but that would probably have happened after the war. There are plenty of things with the Holocaust where the original timetable is once the war is won, we sort of do something about these people somewhere in the East. What it is, maybe we don't say out loud, but we've got some ideas. And Hitler himself kind of likes to talk in broad visions, generalizations, euphemisms, and says, this problem over here with these people will be resolved at this point, and we'll say no more about it right now. He never likes to be too explicit on things. So Himmler's trip to Auschwitz in July 1942 came at a crucial moment. Productive labour was becoming more important than ever, at the same time as the programme of deportations and mass killings of Jews from across Europe got underway. Himmler's visit touched on both aspects, as Auschwitz was a focal point of the SS economic ambitions and the centre of the Nazi final solution. Auschwitz, when you go there, is a huge, huge site. All these wooden huts. At the other Reinhard camps, they're very small. They don't need to be big because people aren't meant to be living there. Everybody dies when they arrive, with the exception of a tiny, tiny handful of Jews who were retained to move the bodies. So Auschwitz of the death camps, Auschwitz Birkenau, that is, of the death camps, doesn't fit with the model of the others, and it's because of when it is created and who oversees it. Productive labour was becoming more important than ever at the same time as the programme of deportations and mass killings of Jews from across Europe got underway. Himmler's visit touched on both aspects, as we've said, as Auschwitz was a focal point for the SS economic ambitions and a centre for the Nazi final solution. Before he left the camp on July the 18th, 1942, Himmler had told Hearst to push ahead with the economic exploitation of prisoners and the mass gassings, with deportations set to increase month by month. At the end of their meeting, Himmler spontaneously promoted Hearst to Obersturmbannführer in recognition of Auschwitz's significance for Nazi plans.
This is Paige, the co-host of Giggly Squad. I use Uber Eats for everything, and I feel like people forget that you can truly order anything, especially living in New York City. It's why I love it. You can get Chinese food at any time of night, but it's not just for food. I order from CVS all the time. I'm always ordering from the grocery store. If a friend stops over, I have to order champagne. I also have this thing that whenever I travel, if I'm ever in a hotel room, I never feel like I'm missing something because I'll just Uber Eats it. The amount of times I've had to Uber Eats hair items like hairspray, deodorant, you name it, I've ordered it on Uber Eats. You can get grocery, alcohol, everyday essentials in addition to restaurants and food you love. So in other words, get almost anything with Uber Eats. Order now. For alcohol, you must be legal drinking age. Please enjoy responsibly. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
At Capella University, you can learn at your own pace with our FlexPath learning format. Take 1 or 2 courses at a time and complete as many as you can in a 12-week billing session. With FlexPath, you can finish the bachelor's degree you started in 19 months and under $19,000. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu. Fastest 25% of students. Cost varies by PACE, transfer credits, and other factors. Fees apply.
And there we shall leave it. When I talk about the Holocaust, and I do refer to this book a lot, the way that I like to talk about this, this is personal to me as a former Holocaust educator, is to look at it as a crime against humanity, and to look at it and try to understand the almost impossible to understand it, to explore its origins, its course, its consequences. But it becomes, particularly with the Holocaust, it becomes very easy to flip over into a kind of prurience. And I can't stand that, to be honest with you. Because so much is written about it, so much is known about it, because it is the key event of the 20th century that people really kind of are aware of, for want of a better word. So when I select things to talk about, when I talk about the Holocaust, it is about the way in which the radicalization of the Holocaust occurs, and the way in which people initiate terrible things and others follow them. Some are dragged along with them. But I tend not to talk about, the horror for the horror's sake. Not that I don't want to or flinch at it, but it is out of kind of respect for the victims more than anything else. So that's how I try to approach things. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I fail. Anyway, listen, I hope you found this interesting, and once again, a lovely welcome to all the new listeners, and a massive, massive thank you to the stalwarts who've stuck with us for so long. Take good care, everybody. Have a great day. All the best. Bye-bye.
This is Paige, the co-host of Giggly Squad. I use Uber Eats for everything, and I feel like people forget that you can truly order anything, especially living in New York City. It's why I love it. You can get Chinese food at any time of night, but it's not just for food. I order from CVS all the time. I'm always ordering from the grocery store. If a friend stops over, I have to order champagne. I also have this thing that whenever I travel, if I'm ever in a hotel room, I never feel like I'm missing something because I'll just Uber Eats it. The amount of times I've had to Uber Eats hair items like hairspray, deodorant, you name it, I've ordered it on Uber Eats. You can get grocery, alcohol, everyday essentials in addition to restaurants and food you love. So in other words, get almost anything with Uber Eats. Order now. For alcohol, you must be legal drinking age. Please enjoy responsibly. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
At Capella University, you can learn at your own pace with our FlexPath learning format. Take 1 or 2 courses at a time and complete as many as you can in a 12-week billing session. With FlexPath, you can finish the bachelor's degree you started in 19 months and under $19,000. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu. Fastest 25% of students. Cost varies by PACE, transfer credits, and other factors. Fees apply.